Andrea Maier, what a pleasure. Finally, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And it's taken us quite some time to get to finally see each other and meet each other. And I'm super excited. I'm super excited, not just because of the fact that we're finally meeting each other, because you're in the middle of something that is so important for the world, not for cosmetic reasons, not for reasons because somebody wants to live longer, but how do you live healthily? How do you reduce disease burden and many other things? So I'm looking forward to this exciting conversation for the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I always say it's never too late to start any changes. So it's never too late to start a podcast with you. So thank you so
Good.
much for inviting me.
Good. And this one's a special one, as I was mentioning you slightly before, is this one is the first live studio recording with you, and I'm at the NUS Institute of Longevity. So I'm super happy that we're inaugurating two things that are common between the two of us.
Yes. So welcome to our new studio. And thank you to the NUS Academy for Health
Wonderful.
Longevity.
Wonderful. So, Andrea, I want to take you back to your childhood. And I want to know a little bit about what it was like to be Andrea as a 7-year-old.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
And did you have a passion for science? Was there always a thirst towards research?
At the year of 7.
Yes, 7, 8, 10.
So
your early years.
So no. I think my parents were quite troubled with me because I didn't want to sleep, because I always wanted to discover more things and I wanted to do everything.
Yeah.
So from ballet to piano playing to meeting friends, and I was quite social also at that time.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to do things and discover, and I was a little bit, as I'm now an octopus, doing everything. So octopus, I learn a lot from them. I think they're also very social.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn more. I changed schools quite often in my childhood, and I always enjoyed that, to be surrounded by new locations, by new people, and to learn. I think I was a little bit too eager for my parents. They also ran a family practice at that moment in time. So I grew up in a GP practice and then moved a lot and went to boarding school and lots of things. But passion is, I think, just do something. Don't sit and just observe.
And the thirst for finding out, curiosity, has always been part and parcel of the journey.
I don't know, because I just did things. So you have to just ask others if actually I was inspired by something. But I was lots good in drawing. I wanted to study arts in the end. So I think if you're looking at my pathway, I first wanted to study arts. Of course, I was quite good in drawing, but then I was not good enough to be a Picasso in the end, so don't do that. Then I wanted to study sea biology, because I love nature. I love to be in the water. So if you drop me in the water, I can swim for days.
Wow.
I love it. So I wanted to study that, but then my parents said, hey, how will you ever earn money? Follow the path of medicine, because then you can, and afterwards you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I followed that path and studied medicine in the end after, never wanted to become a lawyer. So that's never.
So good. You knew what you didn't want to become. So that's good. How did geriatric medicine, right? When did you figure that, hey, this is an interesting space? Was there anyone around you when you were studying medicine? Did you find that there was something that the world needed a little bit more, or was it a white space that there was no research in? How did you find upon geriatric medicine?
Yes, I always want to do things others do not do.
Okay.
Yes, so
perfect.
That was also in the childhood. Like, just do everything and do it quite differently, and just be different from the normal path. So that's the reason why I think went into geriatrics, because in geriatrics it was not established when I was a student. I was never exposed to one lecture in geriatrics, nothing. So I went to a path to do research already during my medical studies from year 1 onwards. And so I was quite eager to discover new things, and that brought me via traditional Chinese medicine. I studied in Hamburg to China, And actually there I discovered that maybe geriatric could be my path, because I had to do, don't ask me to do that anymore. I had to do Tai Chi at 4 a.m. in the morning in China with this perfect teacher who was 90 plus, and she was so balanced in everything she was doing. So like, wow, how can you do this? First o'clock, it's 4 a.m. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
And I had the flexibility in my bones, I would say, but that's then also it. And then I reached out to universities who were then also in other countries, because I was never exposed to actually geriatrics, and I reached out to Joris Slaats, who was at that moment in time in Belgium. I was in China, and you can still maybe remember the time when we tried to do something in mobile and send emails. This was the converted, and it was very, very I think exciting to actually to go to an internet cafe at that moment in time. And then I landed in the end in the Netherlands, and I, in the end, with lots of pathways and lots of circles and lots of ways, I went into internal medicine and in geriatric.
Wonderful. So with all of these learnings that you've had, right, the research and learnings, what would Andrea Maier's morning look like?
Give me coffee. So I cannot. No, I know that there is a debate if they're morning and afternoon or night persons.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I think they're really existing. So I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
But I'm more a surgeon. So I love to be alive at the age of, not at the age, so it feels like 7, but at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And to just be able to do things. And I want to just be productive during the day. So I urge me to have an alarm clock and to wake up. First thing I think is my coffee next to it. And then the first thing, but don't please reproduce that as an audience. Yeah. I will get to my iPhone, and the first thing is the WhatsApp messages, what happened in Europe. And then I do all my emails. And actually then after 20 minutes, all my emails are nearly done, or I know how to prioritize my morning. And then there's no breakfast. It's showering, going, getting slippers and get the high heels into my bag, because it's just too early for me to do anything else than just surviving. Emails are done and going to my appointment and get a touch up before that appointment.
Wonderful, wonderful. Andrea, let's go a little bit into your space of longevity and health span and lifespan. So just for the purpose of the audience, right, we have listeners with very diverse backgrounds listening, investors, young kids, etc., or anybody just doing a day job. How do you explain to them health span, lifespan, and how does that all tie into longevity?
Yeah, so we have a couple of terminologies I think we should clarify. So lifespan is the number of years you are here.
Yeah.
Health span is the number of years you are there in relatively good health. We have more than 180 different definitions of health span, but to make it easy, I think health really is when you are feeling good, you can do your things, and you have a social surrounding, and you have a social network, and you're feeling well, and you're feeling good. And very often it's a little bit diminished, that feeling well, if you have age-related diseases, for example. And if I'm talking about age-related diseases, I'm talking about hypertension, diabetes, stroke, dementia, everything which occurs from the age of 40 to 50 onwards. But very importantly is you should be able to do the things you want to do, or you have to do, because it's not only what you want to do, but also what you would like to do and what somebody else wants you to do. And then we have two different concepts, and that's the chronological age and the biological age, which is also very important. So chronological age is just, hopefully you know how old you are. Sometimes I want to forget, but then I have a passport which reminds me, okay, how old I'm really, and then I have to calculate. And chronological age is very different from biological age. So the biological age is your given age by your biology, and what the pace of aging is. And the pace of aging is very different very likely between you and me. You can be younger or you can be older, and that depends hugely on your lifestyle habits. So if you're drinking the coffee in the morning, or you're getting the breakfast, or you're going to the gym in the afternoon or at night. So really about your habits. And also, of course, what kind of book your parents gave to you, so your genes. So what you can actually do with your body. So it's so nice that we now have the biological age concept, and the biological age also then drives the health span. Because if somebody has a longer health span, this is all what we want, feeling good, perfect, then it's very likely that also the pace of aging, and there is our biological age, is much lower.
So, Andrea, how much of this is exciting, right? How much of this is dependent on the gift that your parents gave you, genetic?
Yep.
How much of it is the lifestyle that you lead?
Yep.
And how much of it is the environmental factors that influence your longevity, aging, and aging with grace, and all of that?
Yeah. 20% roughly is genetics. And I don't know why I have tears in my eyes, actually, but I think this is the room.
I would hope, because you're so happy seeing me.
Yes, yeah, no, of course. I have no clue what's happening here. So I'm really happy. These are happy tears. So 20% is roughly genetic, and we know that because we looked at monozygotic and dizygotic twins.
Yeah.
So if you have the same chronological age, you are being born in the same period of time, and either you have the same genes or you are just a brother or a sister if you are dizygotic twins. So 20-25% you can blame your parents for. The majority is lifestyle, but the majority of lifestyle, of course, also interfering with, we call it the exposome. So where do you live, your surrounding? Because if it's nearly impossible to do lots of exercise outside because you are living in the Middle East and it's 50 degrees, how can you? So we know that the environmental factors are hugely influencing your lifestyle, but also mental capacities, mental health. What you want, what's your purpose in life, is influencing then the lifestyle. So we say that nearly 80% is actually lifestyle, but it's influenced by so many other factors. And then, of course, you just also sometimes just need luck, or you don't want the opposite of it. So you don't want to have that car accident, you don't want to have that trauma, and which actually then interferes with your lifespan, or even the health span. But I think, in summary, most importantly, you are driving how healthy or not healthy you would like to be, and therewith indirectly how long you would like to live.
Got it. And Andrea, there's a big debate around the world that longevity is a rich man's topic.
Yeah.
Right. At this point in time, because a large percentage of the world is still living in conditions where probably a discussion on longevity is not even relevant. We're talking about scarcity of food, scarcity of medicine, and all of that. And even for somebody in a strata like ours, so I figured that I have an autoimmune condition probably 2 years back, right? Only after a COVID-19 vaccine. And inflammation and what happens to longevity because of inflammation and all of that was something that I realized much later in my life. How do you address it as a community, and how do you take the concept of longevity to the population as a whole?
Yeah. So I just told you that I also went via China, and I did also TCM, so traditional Chinese medicine. So it's not new, it's not just for the rich, because it's already embedded in medicines which are not the conventional ones, and especially in Eastern medicine. Because we are thinking about prevention, we are thinking about how can we improve the function of the body. If you're looking at traditional Chinese medicine, it's very different from the Western world medicine, where we are diagnosing now hypertension, and we are diagnosing the cardiac event. So I really learned also from that concept that longevity, the power, the energy is actually included in everything what that kind of medicine is doing. I'm not practicing that kind of medicine because I have to focus, even as an octopus. But it's not new. The entire story about longevity, also if you're looking in the Ayurvedic medicine. And it's also not just for the rich. I think we think it is for the rich because we are now including that into Western medicine, and all the tests we are doing very often, these are only affordable at this moment in time, we think, which is also a myth, only for the richest of the richest. If we would like to apply healthy longevity medicine, which means that we are optimizing the health of aging individuals, every GP could already do that. It's about when do we detect certain abnormalities, which I find abnormal, which is not optimal in individuals, and when do I act and react? And this doesn't have to be medication. So I don't need a genetic test or an epigenetic test or a microbiome test. I could just do with normal tests like a CRP or a glucose level, or with a BMI, just measuring the height and weight, we could already determine what the aging trajectory of an individual is. With an easy test to stand 5 times out of a chair, we can already determine what the trajectory of that individual is. I think we always have the perception these are the biohackers. It's the supplements which are very, very difficult to get, and I don't know what, and they are very expensive. It's absolutely not true. In my view, and we have publications around that we can prove it, that we could already measure the biological age of all the public in public health and family offices around the globe with very quite easy measures to do. And we already have interventions in hand, and that's lifestyle interventions, which do not cost so much money, but cost, I think, a little bit a change in mindset that you are doing something for yourself and you can really change the trajectory.
I love that. On that note, in terms of biological age, would that change over time? So let's say I go check my biological age. Hopefully it says 1025. Hopefully.
Do you say 10?
25.
25, okay.
Hopefully.
I don't want to be 10, and I think it would not be healthy.
It would not be healthy. So 30.
Maybe 10 years younger.
10 years younger. Okay, fine. 30.
No, that would be perfect.
That's fine. So would that change in 5 years if let's say I'm not following a certain type of lifestyle, and let's say I get a little bit, for lack of a better word, loose in terms of how I'm leading my life, right? I'm not active, I'm binge eating, I'm just sitting on a sedentary chair, working all the time. Would my biological age change in 5 years?
Working all the time does not have to be so negative. Correct. It depends what you do.
Correct.
Yes, of course. So the concept of biological age is not only that we are measuring it one time, but we can measure the changes. And it's so nice that we now also have digital devices, for example, smart rings, smart watches, which already give an indication of the biological age. But very importantly is that the biological age is changing. So it's very dynamic based on what we do and what we not do. So if we would go from the gym and being heavily active or good active to a couch potato, then it's very likely that you will go from a minus 5 years of your biological age compared to your chronological age to a plus 5 years, which means that you aged within a certain period of time, 10 years. That's what we should like to, or would like to prevent. Very importantly, the other way around, we can already showcase within 3 months that the biological age actually is lower in the ones who are on the treadmill for a couple of times in a week. So we can lower the biological age quite rapidly.
Okay. Yes. I mean, that's great news then. Would that can you translate that to generations? Now, for example, would that actually alter the genetic sequence of, let's say, so if I'm super active, would that change my genetic makeup? And then if I do have kids at that point in time, would they also inherit a better gene sequence?
Okay, so your genes are we think static. So you only can have copy mistakes in your genes. But in principle, what you have is yours, and that's what is stable. Which also means that if you did one very good genetic test, don't do another one. Yes, if actually methodologies improved so much, then of course you should do it. But in principle, one time a whole genome scan gives you a huge amount of information, and just do it once, because this is your book you are reading. These are the words, these are the chapters in your genes, and they won't change. There can only be copy mistakes. However, the question is, can you manipulate a little bit which chapters you are going to read? And this is what we are calling genomics, but this is epigenetics.
Yeah.
So epigenetics means that with the books, with the words in a book you have, what kind of chapters do you want to read? What kind of words do you want to read? And what the body is doing so lovely is you have your genes, which are just codes out of 4 base pairs. You put methylation site, you put something on top of it, and then you can read it or you can't read it. And then the chapter is closed. So you have to do something else to either unopen the chapter and there was use the genes, and otherwise it's closed. And this is so fascinating that we now can show with just lifestyle interventions, more physical activity, we can unlock the good genes which are then being used. So the genes are not changing, so your sequence, but what kind of genes you are reading, and there was expressing, and there was feeling better.
Got it. So I could be carrying a carcinogenic gene, a gene that is exhibiting, some kind of cancer marker, but because of my lifestyle, it could potentially be dormant.
Yes.
And not exhibit itself.
Yeah, partly. So there it's depending on what kind of genes this is and what kind of genes expressions we then have. So genes, some are so dominant that they are going to be expressed very likely, and some not. So, but very often we now know that diseases are not coming because of one gene. So we have, of course, multiple monogenetic diseases where you have a huge risk to then have that disease. But many of the diseases we have at later life are composed of genetic combinations. And there, it's very important to look at a very healthy methylation pattern to then silencing these kind of regions. Yes.
With that said, Andrea, what is the biggest misconception that you see right now in the industry, in the scientific world about longevity?
We already had one, that it's only for the rich.
Yeah, we had one. That's correct.
I think for the consumer perspective, or just leave it and I will look after me in 5 years' time. Do it now, because you will have lots of return of investment. And also the third one, I think from a consumer perspective, that you need so many supplements, you need so much, you need so much equipment before really changing it. I think there's also a misconception from a government perspective that it's absolutely not ready to implement. So depends on the level you're actually looking, but lots of myth because of lots of voices of people who are just shouting around. And then there is so much information that actually a consumer or a government does not know what actually to implement. And then scientists who have to figure out even to see what terminology they should use. For example, we even do not have a good definition of aging yet. So we have still so many. We have more than 180 definitions of health span. I always say, hey, let's get our act together. Let's define it. In a year's time, we can redefine it. So there's lots of noise in the field, but I would say one of the myths is, no, we can actually reduce the noise, and we can now implement it.
Great. I'm going to go into your most prominent research in the recent past, which is the HELLO framework, right? And the society's perception of aging, the public's perception of aging, and what you're helping Singapore do is quite fascinating. And what can we learn from this? What can other countries, whether it's Vietnam, Indonesia, neighboring countries, or India even, learn from what you're doing over here, and how can a country adopt something like this?
So in HALO, we did surveys with the public in different countries, now 12 countries, where we actually wanted to know what is the knowledge about health span and lifespan. Do people know what we are talking about? What is their perception? Do they want to live longer? For what? What do they want to live longer? What's their perception of purpose, for example? And then also, do they want interference with the medical health system? Would they come to health longevity medicine clinics? So do you not only want to know what their biological age is, but especially also, do you want to intervene? And then also the question, which is very important for implementation, would they pay for the services? So, and who is going to pay? I think is a big question around. So, what we found in Singapore is that the majority of the individuals were very, very knowledgeable in what lifespan is. So 90% of the population knew what lifespan is, and 40% of the population knew what health span is. And while understanding the concept better, while explaining it, 2/3 of the population in Singapore said, okay, I get it. I want to invest in my health, and I'm very interested to come to health longevity medicine clinic. And half of them also wanted to pay partly or fully for the services to be delivered, to actually know and get a sort of an idea about your own dashboard, how old you are, and what you could do with that information and starting interventions. We find roughly the same in other countries in Europe, for example, in the Netherlands. It's a very different story in Indonesia. And there's even a different story between rural and urban. So what we did is not only that we knocked on 20,000 Singapore doors, but we also went into the fieldwork in Java and then into rural and more urban areas. And what we were able to find is that also the perception about health span and lifespan is very different, and there was influenced by very likely the environment, what people know, but what they perceive as to be good and what they want out of it. So here, of course, the concept is much, much less clear. So only 10-15% knew what health span is, and the uptake into health longevity clinics was much, much lower. And they just rather wanted to have their traditional methods of living longer. And I think that is so important to understand where nations are, what kind of, because it's not a nation thinking something, but where people live, what the influences is, if people are already knowing something, if they already take supplements, for example, and then shaping, I would say, from a framework perspective, then the next steps, how to implement healthy longevity medicine, or first, of course, give knowledge, and then really changing the healthcare system.
Did you see a difference in point of view between maybe a male's perspective versus a female's perspective?
Oh, yes.
What was it? I'd love to hear.
So the ones who want to come to longevity clinics, and that's a little bit across all the countries.
Yeah.
These are males.
Okay.
Yes, 40 to 60.
Okay.
Already taking supplements, already doing annual health screenings of higher socioeconomic class. And it's 50-50 if they're married or not. But this is, so especially males. Of course, females also want, but in much, much lower percentages. So these are we always call them the varied well males.
Got it. And interesting, were there any discussions on why women had slightly lesser inclination to come into a longevity clinic, considering they go through quite a different aging process given menopausal, hormonal, etc. Any insights on that?
Yeah. Of course. So women go through menopause, men go through andropause. It's more slight, and that under is more acute, the effects. So what we found is that women really more often go, for example, to the dentist, to go more often to GP. They are doing annual health screenings, but they are hugely focusing on aesthetics. Especially in that age group, and it's more that the function of their body, like their performance, their peak performance, how many stairs can you actually run without being short of breath, that's differently perceived than for male. Male want to perform. So that's also what we found in the questionnaires, that I want to perform, I want to feel well. And women, of course, it's very dichotomous now being said, but women want to look nice. Males really want to feel better.
I know this is a complex topic, but I'm just going to try to get your thoughts on this. If we were to have government sponsorship on any type of longevity diagnosis or medication or any treatment, a trial or an HTA application can be quite cumbersome, because what would be the duration of your trial, what would be, how do you actually figure out if the aging is reducing, etc. What is your thoughts on that, and how far are we on actually getting government related funding or even insurance coverage for any of this?
So one is the research phase, and one is the implementation phase, and then it's following and really giving it to clinical practice, who is then paying for it.
Yeah.
So we are sitting here in the NUS Academy for Health and Longevity, which is the National University of Singapore. We have great opportunities to run the trials here, and really, really great backup by the university to be able to really enlarge the knowledge in the field. We are running the trials partly with government funding, partly out of philanthropic resources, so from very different sources, to really bring the knowledge and the evidence into the field. And we are running especially middle-sized trials with individuals who are relatively healthy, who are from the age of 30 to 70. So our focus is really the middle-aged population who still is relatively healthy, but can be optimized. And we are running the trials in periods from 3 months to roughly two years. Why do we do such relatively short term trials? First of all, we have such a consumer drive. We want answers. And we also see in clinical practice that if somebody starts with interventions, they want to feel better in a couple of months. Like, if I will tell you, you will feel better in 5 years' time, you will lose your interest, because you want to feel it now and you want to be better now. And that's most important. So the span of when do I feel or when can I see effect is very different from the disease stage and secondary prevention compared to primary prevention and the aging field.
So right now your largest trial and your focus is on what area?
Thousands of individuals. We do multiple trials now in our new trial center, which we just recently opened. We have trials from very specific molecules like alpha-ketoglutarate. We are giving to individuals who are biologically older to make them younger, to molecules which will interfere with your mitochondria. SIRT6 activation, you can find it in seaweed and brown seaweed. So very interesting. Mice live longer, especially male mice. We are now doing that in human trials, in especially males for the seaweed. We have studies where we are combining interventions together, and interventions like giving a multivitamin and mineral supplement. 60% of the Singapore population already is taking very frequently and regularly, especially multivitamin and minerals. We always ask the question, is there any evidence that you should actually take it? So what we do is then first analyzing all the literature, where's the evidence, and then if the evidence is limited for the population we are studying, which is the middle-aged, relatively healthy group of individuals, then we are doing a trial, and that's what we are doing at the moment. It's called SEDERA. We are including 400 individuals between the age of 40 to 60, being biologically older compared to their chronological age. So roughly the average is 50 years old, and then the individuals will biologically be 55. So we saw that in another trial, and they are now receiving either placebo or they're receiving the multivitamin and mineral supplement. So, and we have other studies. We are absolutely actively recruiting at the moment. So if you are in this age range, or so up to the age of 80, please contact us. It's longevityacademy.sg. You will find all the trials.
There you go.
And you can also see on the first page the inclusion criteria for each of the studies. And please reach out. And not only you reaching out, but also ask your neighbor to just have a look at the website and come, because very importantly, we can help. We want to run the trial. So if you help us with the recruitment, that's great.
Oh, I love it. You touched upon running clinical trials. You touched upon minerals, supplements, vitamins. As a consumer, right, there is a decision paralysis right now. You go into the pharmacy, you see a whole lot of vitamins. Everything tells you there's a benefit. You go into the cosmetic section, there's a whole lot of things that tell you how you can look younger. You open your app, it tells you how many different steps, how many different exercises, and everything that you need to do to be younger. It almost feels like there is an overload of products and information, right? Protein has become like water, right? Creatinine has become like, your side ingredient that everybody has to take. If Andrea Maier were to say, I put my money on these three things, or three ingredients, or three changes, what would that be, right? So that this is something that is a must do in everybody's life.
Testing,
Okay.
testing, and then I can say 10 times testing. So know who you are, what you need, and what you want to achieve. Most important. I have the same. If I go to a store, I will see all this very colorful bottles, and I see so many advertisements. I have no idea what to take. And I was also I'm still lost. And I think we really have to regulate this field a little bit better. Of course, it's not only that the quality of the supplements, sometimes it's very poor. Many studies actually showcasing that what is written on the label, on the bottle, is actually not inside the bottle. So there's a huge quality disparity, there's a huge quality problem. But then also, what should you take? We will come back to the multivitamin and minerals. Should you actually take it? There is no evidence out of the literature at this moment in time that a 40 to 60-year-old, relatively healthy, eating well should actually take it. The only evidence is there if you are not eating well, if you have diseases which are aligned with not eating well. For example, you had a recent hip fracture, you had to undergo cancer therapy, you have a depression. These kind of populations, they really benefit from a multivitamin and mineral pill, and there's a huge amount of evidence. But why is that? Because these individuals have an impaired eating habit. So therewith, if you don't eat appropriate food, fresh fruit, you won't have your multivitamins and the minerals inside. So their supplementation really, really helps. The same for, should you get and take creatine, or should you take uracil A or NMN or NR or uracil A or spermidine or fisetin or ergothioneine or whatever you can all buy. It depends on what your indication is and what you would like to achieve. If you are the super achiever in terms of brain health and you already do a sort of brain gym, it might not be the best to then, next to eating already mushrooms, also to take a supplement where ergothioneine is inside. Yes? Because that's the indication. So we have now indications, and we learned so much from randomized controlled trials, from the best evidence, when actually a supplement works and whom and when not. So therewith, don't just go into the room and say, whoa, this is a nice bottle, because this was my habit 10 years ago. It feels so right to buy this. And this is a different shape of the bottle. Maybe I should take that one. Yes. Don't do that. But first, analyze, how is your vitamin D level? How is your omega-3 level before taking the supplements? And always do this step. What can I do with the diet? And then taking a supplement on top of it. But measure first. Ask your GP, ask your family doctor. If you have the means, ask your health longevity medicine physician to really analyze what you need. Analyze, if you have the means, your genome. Then you know if you metabolize coffee well, if you're metabolizing vitamin D well, if you're metabolizing certain medicines well.
Yeah.
So important. Coffee might not so be important, because you already know if you can drink coffee at night, not diminishing your sleep. For vitamin D, it's already getting more relevance, and it's super important to actually know the genes which are modulating, for example, medication.
Where can an everyday Singaporean do testing on metabolism and how they absorb different types of food or diet, etc.?
In my view, every GP should already be trained, but we are in the process of really changing it into not only measuring a glucose level and how the glucose uptake is and what the insulin level is, so how good actually your pancreas is, but really also seeing, okay, what is the microbiome, what do you eat, and combining all these habits. So here you will see that in the next upcoming years, I think there will be much more specialists being trained and really looking at metabolism, looking at brain health, looking at gut health, looking at mental health more specifically.
So social media is going berserk on devices that tell you a glucose spike, right? You eat something and it tells you, oh, there you go, you had a glucose spike. So this is probably something that you should avoid. Is that a small period of time of glucose spike that the measure that tells you, is that even valid on how you eat it and how you consume it?
Oh, yes. So now we are talking about continuous glucose monitoring system. So it's just a tiny circle and you stick to through your skin actually, and it can measure the glucose continuously, which is so important to do. I learned so much about my habits, and I learned what kind of food I'm spiking on and what not. So I can now choose if I'm going to eat it or not. So first of all, it's very important to measure and also measure then what you eat to really understand the habits. Should we avoid glucose spikes? Yes. It would be perfect to be very imbalanced in terms of glucose, that the glucose level is as low as healthy positive, as low as possible, but in the healthy way, not too low, and then avoiding really the spikes. And it's fantastic to see if you are, for example, drinking orange juice, and then whoop, it's a spike. You know, drinking orange juice was never in our evolution. We were because we made juice because we don't want to eat an apple or an orange anymore. And now we see what the end result is. That's whoop, a huge spike. So I try now to avoid it. Sometimes I take it because I love the taste. But this is how you can really learn from the behavior and then the behavior of the body, and then adapt with these kind of nudges, what you do and what you don't do.
Fascinating. Andrea, what is your take on longevity through cosmeceuticals? Cosmeceuticals. So, so I just came back from Korea.
Yes.
And every street has stem cells oozing out of every store. There are brands that are like, every brand has...
How do you call it?
Cosmeceuticals.
Cosmeceuticals.
So cosmetics that have cosmetics that are combined with some pharmaceutical ingredients.
Thank you so much. Okay.
To make cosmeceuticals.
Yes.
And so whether it's injectables, whether it's stem cells with some pharmaceutical ingredients, to make you look younger, right? And it's just longevity skin deep, right? If I may. And for a large part of the society, longevity means looking great at 60, looking great at 70. Oh, wow. You look like you're 40, right? Whether you're active, whether you're able to do something at 40 is more from a personal choice, and it's more from, it's more from within, if I may. What's your take on that field of research and how much that's happening?
So everybody wants to look great, because very often if you're looking great and others say you look great, you feel great. Sure, it doesn't mean that you have to feel great. So I think aesthetics is very important for us. It's if you're looking at evolution and animal models, it's very, very important that people they smell each other, they're looking at each other, and then they are mating based on smell and look, etc. So I think it's very important also for human beings. I started doing research in skin with big companies. And one thing we did is actually looking how you perceive me, not how nice I look, but how old I look. And that's so interesting, because people who perceive themselves to feel older, they also die earlier. If others judge these individuals and they also say, yes, you are looking older, they also die earlier. So there's a huge information in how you look like, how others perceive you. And here's a little bit different if people like how you look, like the aesthetic side, versus how old you look. And very often the younger looking ones are also the more beautiful perceived ones. So it goes a little bit hand in hand. But that's hugely important. We actually analyzed the data, how people are being perceived, and we linked it to real biology within deeper sides of the skin. So we took skin biopsies from the inner and the upper arm. We took the pictures of individuals, and what we were able to find is people who are looking older, they have more wrinkles, less lip height, more gray hair, and less hair density, all the characteristics we know. Of course, we are judging individuals. They had many more zombie cells, more senescent cells, older cells already in their skin. And also their immune system was much, much older. So there's a huge arena of science there. It's so interesting. So we do lots of photographs of individuals. We are working in our newly established joint lab with L'Oreal, actually at skin, where we are taking skin really seriously. It's your biggest organ you really have to take care of, but we are taking the lens of not so much the beauty, but actually the function. So skin, hugely important, how you look like. If you are enthusiastic, you are looking with tears in your eyes, as I did. As you, people will judge you, people will say, hey, enthusiastic person, I judge that person younger. And very often these individuals also feel younger. And how you feel is most important.
You know, Andrea, when I was walking into the longevity clinic, I was expecting a meter that says, hello, you are 30 years old. So how much of this AI buzz is inside your research?
Okay, I love it. Okay, yes. So, if you would take your smartphone, you would just make a photograph, then we can already say, okay, what's your temperature? We can even estimate a little bit what your blood pressure is. Yeah, but also we can estimate how old you are. And that's really the next generation we are introducing, and we already introduced in some of the studies, and we already did in the past the studies. So, but yeah, sorry, we don't have that screening system. I'm not sure if that would go through NUS ethics. So, but I think it would be lovely. So we will consider it.
Andrea, in the whole research
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I then also would put the weighing scale next
That's
to
right.
it. Yes?
Right.
Okay.
And or the actions that we will support you on, right?
Yes.
And a first free visit to the Chi Longevity Clinic as well.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we can add a few things to that. I want to come to Chi now, right? Your personal project.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
There's a lot of buzz around Chi. I know personally a lot of people who visited Chi and they love it. Your entire philosophy of Chi also is rooted with everything that we spoke about right now. What's that one biggest outcome that you're seeing already from Chi? And you yourself as a founder are fascinated by how much change you're seeing.
From a client's perspective, we have great success. People feel better and they say, I feel better. Then, of course, we are measuring if they are better, but this is so successful that people say, hey, I got it. I feel better. I sleep better. I can work better. I am better. So that's most important. I think that's, as a clinician, this is always the touch. Okay, I did it. Yes. This is good. Then I in the next second, I think, okay, how do I keep it that way?
Yeah.
So that's also the reason why we are working on memberships, to really, because aging is continuously happening. It's very important that we keep it that way. So you have that steady increase in function, reversing the aging process, lowering the biological aging processes, and therewith feeling and being better. Then from the perspective as a founder, it was a rough road. I think we are there, and I think we are hugely established in the field. We opened 3 years ago. Now we are at the top tier of longevity clinics, and we are being recognized. Why is that the case? I think we are so rigorous of what our brand is. And the brand is evidence-based medicine. And it's not wellness, it's medicine. We understand you, we understand the biology, and we just do it.
When will other countries see Chi?
Very, very soon in many other countries in the Middle East and north from Singapore.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. And in Europe, so that's not a question.
No, wonderful. I think my last thought or last question to you would be, what is the one big part of longevity research that's going to be the next frontier that you're super excited about, which the world doesn't know yet?
Yeah. Two things, very different things. First, data, and how do you really make sense out of human biology? So how do we combine the genome with the epigenome, with your mood, with your physical habits? How do we really analyze and give you that dashboard? And we are crunching it at the NUS Academy, but also in Chi Longevity. We are getting there. We, as an entrepreneur, but especially as a physician, I now feel I'm getting there. It's a little bit the feeling I had nearly 25, 30 years ago when I was an intern, and I first had the responsibility of patients. Like, you're so nervous, and you are getting it in the end. And this is where we are at the moment. At least we understand biology. How do we now represent it, and what do we do with it? And that's huge. That's a huge step to understand who somebody is. The second one is in interventions. I'm hugely engaged at the moment in how we can test stem cell therapies, how we can test new drugs. There are big projects coming up to really bring that into the academic sphere before bringing it into clinical practice. So in clinical practice, it's about the combination. Who is somebody? What kind of therapeutic would likely be work? Then that new evolution of therapeutics, because we understand the human physiology, the human body much better. We are understanding and we are interpreting the painting of this nice body much better. And then matchmaking that with the therapeutics to just maintain that beauty of the body.
Lovely. Andrea Maier, it was amazing to speak with you, and I'm feeling a lot younger after our conversation. And thank you so much. And I look forward to having another conversation with you.
Thank you. And thanks to the team to make this possible.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Super.